Hey everyone, figured we'd do a Boxing Day shave today, so stick around. How's everybody doing? Merry Christmas, late Christmas. Hope everybody had a good one. So I'm going to take you through a full shave today. I'll kind of show you my full process, so this might be a little bit longer video. I typically start by filling a bowl. A lot of you might recognize this Vanderhagen bowl. It's one of the things I still have around from my original kit. And take my brush. I'm going to be using RazoRock 400 Noir. This is actually one of my favorite brushes. Most of the brushes I own, I buy the handles and I set the knots myself. This is one of the few that I really enjoy that came fully assembled. So I'm just going to stick that in the bowl, let it soak up a little bit of the water. You really don't need to with a synthetic brush. You can just kind of rinse it out in the sink and it's got enough water in it, but that's the process I use. I do use pre-shave oil. Actually, I use beard oil as my pre-shave oil. Just a couple of drops is all you really need. So a lot of people think pre-shave oil is meant to add glide or enhance the lather somehow. It's not. It's just a moisturizer. So for a while I struggled with nicks and cuts, and it was because I had relatively dry skin. And so the shaving oil, I find, you rub it in really well so that there's no oiliness left over. And it tends to help. Once I'm done with that, take my brush and take it out of the water, and I just kind of shake out all the excess water. I like to start with a relatively just kind of damp synthetic, not overly saturated. There are various ways to build a lather. A lot of people talk about the Marco method, where you start with a sopping wet brush. I don't do it that way. I think it just depends on what you like, what soap you're using, what brush you're using. There's a lot of variables. So for soap today, I'm going to be using Cooper & French Fair Isle Harbor. Really underrated artisan, I think. I came across this soap at the Big Shave Southwest a couple of years ago, and there were a handful of scents that I really enjoyed of theirs. This is the one I ended up buying. So a blend of rich, warming tobacco blossom wrapped with caramel, topped with notes of mandarin orange, honey, and rose. So it's almost a gourmand scent. I think the tobacco kind of removes it from that category, but it's close. Really good smelling soap. So like I said, relatively damp brush, and take it to the bowl and start loading. I load a lot heavier than a lot of people, partially because I'm going to be shaving both my head and my cheeks and neck. So you can see not enough water in there. It's kind of pasty, so I'm going to dip the tips in my brush in my water bowl here and just get a little bit more water so I can load that brush a little better. But the other reason I tend to load really heavy is because I have really hard water. We don't have a water softener. And I live in Arizona, where we have notoriously hard water. So it takes a little bit more lather, a little bit more soap in the brush to build a good lather for me. And I've experimented over the years. Some soaps don't need quite as much as others. Some need a little bit more water than others. But this is what works for me. And like I said, a lot of people swirl, 10, 15 times is what they say to load their brush. That just doesn't seem to work for me. I can't get enough lather doing that. So I load pretty heavy. And I don't have a problem with using up too much soap doing that. I know a lot of people don't want to waste soap, so they'll go light on their loading. I tend, based on the calculations I've done, I tend to use 0.02 to 0.03 ounces of soap per shave, which from what I've heard in some of the like 3017 threads, if you don't know what it is, I'll talk about that someday. But it seems to be about average. So now I've got a pretty well loaded brush here. So I take and I use, just use my fingers to kind of scoop all the rest of that lather that I pulled off the soap out of the soap bowl and into my lather bowl. So I used to, I'm going to just kind of wipe the rest on the head. I used to not be a bowl latherer. I would just lather on my head. But I got this Captain's Choice copper bowl in, I think it was Captain's Choice giveaway for Christmas last year. I won it, and this bowl has turned me into a bowl latherer. I seem to be able to make a lot more lather and get it closer to the right consistency when I'm using the bowl as opposed to just doing it on my head. So this is a really good scent strength on this. I haven't really decided what scale I want to use. I know a lot of guys do 1 to 10, a lot of guys do light medium. I would say this is on the high end of medium as far as soap scent strength. So it really picks up as you start lathering. I just kind of add water as I go, little bits at a time. If you add water too fast, you'll end up getting a soupy mess with all sorts of air bubbles in it, and it will not be a very protective lather. One of these days I'll probably do a lathering tutorial just so everybody can actually see what I'm doing in the bowl down here. So I hope everybody had a good Christmas. I know it was probably a weird Christmas for most people. It certainly was for us. We typically do Christmas Eve with my dad's side of the family. That's been a tradition on my dad's side of the family for years, since before I was born. We decided to opt out this year. We're in Arizona, and the coronavirus numbers are kind of crazy here right now, and our hospitals are overflowing. We actually have some friends that are nurses who are saying that a lot of the news articles that are trying to tell you that we still have capacity are not facing reality. So we decided to do Christmas at home by ourselves this year. We did have my mom. My mom's socially isolating, so she's safe, and we've been doing the same just because we want to be able to spend time with her. So we stayed home this year. The other thing that was different for us is we usually spend part of Christmas Day with my wife's side of the family. They big Christmas fans there, and my father-in-law's love language is definitely gift giving, so he goes all out for Christmas. but he's working in Michigan right now. And because of that, he was only home for a very short amount of time. So we decided to postpone our Christmas with that side of the family. And we're going to be doing that out in like March when he finally gets done with this out-of-town job. Alright, so I've got pretty good lather there. So I'm going to go ahead. You'll notice I don't wet my face or my head before I start lathering. Again, that's kind of something different than most people do. I find I've usually got enough water left in the brush, and if not, I add a little bit as I go. Just seems to work better for me. And then I tend to scrub a little bit as if I'm head lathering, even though I just bowl lathered, just to make sure I get all that leftover soap out of the brush. It's a little bit dense, so could probably use a little bit more water. So yeah, I'm sure everybody's Christmases were probably quite a bit different this year, which is unfortunate, but that's the reality we're all living in right now. But I hope everybody was able to have at least some enjoyable times with family members, maybe do some Zoom calls with the people you weren't able to get together with. So hopefully everybody watching this video who is a traditional shaving fan got some good shaving stuff for Christmas. I know I did. I'll be using one of those items today. I'll show a picture here in the video of the things I got. So, got some more sterling. That actually came from my brother-in-law, who is a huge Office fan. And my wife and I, who had never, we had watched the first few seasons when they were on television still, but we had never really sat down and watched all the seasons. I think we had missed the last 4 seasons or so. So we decided we'd start watching it, and we're almost done. I think we got 2 episodes left. So for those of you that don't know, there's a few episodes of The Office where the main character is creating a movie, and the main character is Michael Scarn, which is why Sterling named that set Scarn. It's a kind of an homage to the show. It's a great scent. I'll do a video on that at some point. Alright, so looks like I've got pretty good lather here. We'll get to the shave. Today I'm using Merkur Future, however you want to pronounce it. It's a pretty aggressive razor. Not typically one of my favorites, but like I said, I'm revisiting a lot of my old razors right now to see if they stick around. Adjustable. So right now I've got it set to 5. I usually have it set on 6 and I run only with the grain. I'm going to knock it down to 5 today and do some across the grain passes. You can get the Q-Shave and I think Mingxi. I think there's a few Chinese companies that make clones of this. From what I've heard, very, very similar in terms of the shave quality. So I've got the original Future that I bought probably 2014, 2015. It's got a little bit longer handle than I like. I tend to like shorter handles, but surprisingly, with the smooth, no knurling, still doesn't have grip problems. These little dents here are kind of nice for that. Let's go ahead and get started. I've got a couple days growth. I did do a Christmas Eve shave, even though we weren't going anywhere. Kind of show you the shave of the day photo there for that. I don't have very many Christmassy scents, so I just kind of picked some stuff that seemed appropriate for a Christmas shave. This is doing well on 5 here. I can hear it cutting. That's one of the things about the Future is it is a loud razor. One of the ones with the most audible feedback that I've ever used. So, I don't know if you can hear that in the video or not, but it's definitely cutting. A lot of people think this is a particularly aggressive razor. I think I might have caught myself there as I said that. I don't find it all that aggressive. I tend to make a distinction between aggressive and efficient. So aggressive just means it's likely to bite you if you're not careful with it. Efficient means it gets rid of a lot of hair. So the Future, maybe it's fairly aggressive. I don't think it's as efficient as it's rumored to be. I find that even up on 6, it doesn't shave as closely for me as, say, my Fat Boy at 9. But still does a pretty good job. And like I said, we're gonna try running across the grain at a little bit lower setting today. So we'll see how that goes. So, like I said, Christmas was good for us. Even though it was different, the kids enjoyed it. They got some good stuff. I think my wife kind of enjoyed the low-key aspect this year. We're usually rushing to my family's house on Christmas Eve. We're here Christmas morning, and then we go over to her mom's for the last part of Christmas Day. So this year, just being home the whole time was actually kind of nice. Of course, we missed our family, and if we'd have had a choice, we'd have rather been spending our time with them. But it's a weird year. Yeah. So across the grain with this razor, I might be able to knock it down even further than 5, but we'll see how the shave ends up before we make that decision. So I hope everybody got some good presents. But what I found myself enjoying more than that this year was not what I got, but what we were able to give. For us, we try to make Christmas about giving more than getting. And we've been blessed this year with a stable job and stable income, which we know there's a lot of people this year that haven't. And so we were able to give a little bit this year. We still in the process right now of my dad passed away a couple of years ago, and he left us a little bit of money, and so we're still in the process of our yearly drawdown on his retirement fund. So anytime we receive money, my family believes that that money was given to us and entrusted to us, and part of our responsibility with that money is to give some of it back. And so we were able to take a nice portion of that and give a little extra to our church this year. And our church has been doing some wonderful things during this pandemic. with assisting people who need help. And so we were able to give a little bit to that. We also have a friend in our small group who's involved with a school, kind of a boarding school, and they were in need of some basic supplies. It's kind of a troubled boys type place, and a lot of them don't have basic things like extra blankets or sporting equipment, or just kind of random things that boys enjoy and want. And so we were able to go in together with our small group to help out a couple of cabins. And then we actually had a friend post on Facebook about a family that moved to Arizona for work because they were having trouble finding work where they were living before. And when they got here, the job fell through. So this family was having some hard times and struggling a bit, living in a hotel. So we, again, were able to donate some of our own money, but we also were able to kind of recruit some others to help out, and paid enough. We managed to raise enough to pay at least a month's worth of their hotel. So that was awesome. And those are the things that we try to make sure we do every Christmas to set an example for our kids, because we want our kids to be givers. And you know, I don't talk about those things out of pride. I know that it was only because we've been blessed that we were able to bless other people. I talk about those things because I believe the more you talk about generosity and giving, the more other people want to do it. And I've done a lot of research on the topic, and generosity is one of the best ways we have available to us to cultivate gratitude in our lives. And there's tons of research on what gratitude and having a grateful heart does in your life. It makes you happier, tends to make you healthier, and if your generosity takes place within your community, it tends to build a better place to live. So we try to talk about it for those reasons. I have a couple of bumps on the back of my head there that I may have caught, but I think we're safe. So I don't typically ever catch myself bad enough to need styptic or alum. Usually, if I nick a bump or something here and there, it's because I shower after my shave. It's not a big deal. It usually closes up in the process of the shower, if not before then. So one of the other things I didn't mention about my own technique, I shave with cold or lukewarm water. So I know a lot of people love that hot water and the kind of luxurious feeling. A lot of people even do warm towels. There's what I believe is a myth about the impact of warm water on softening hairs. I'm an engineer by trade, so I do a lot of research, and I actually researched that, and it does not, in fact, matter. The softening of the hairs comes from the water. It doesn't matter what temperature it is. What it can do is the hot water can clean out the pores and the follicles a little bit better. But hot water also swells your skin. And it's the swelling of the skin around the hairs that can tend to produce more irritation for some people. And that includes me. So I have found that I have a much more comfortable shave if I do not use hot water. Like I said, I am probably, not a minority. There's a pretty big cold water following these days, but certainly not the majority. So I normally leave my sideburns along with my beard. But what I found when I had to start wearing masks was that the hair on the sideburns was one of the worst places for getting tangled up and pushed in the wrong direction under the mask. So while we're having to wear these masks, I made the decision I would just shade the sideburns. And this is a look I sometimes have used in the summertime in Arizona. Anyways, I kind of prefer the sideburns, but I don't think this looks bad either, so. So I know a lot of guys swear by skin stretching, particularly if you're a straight shaver. I do not do any of that because I found I end up with a lot more irritation and a lot more potential for ingrown hairs when I do that. So I just keep it simple. My neck is definitely my most sensitive area to shave. And I have, like most men, weird swirl patterns in my neck beard. And because of that, there's really no way for me to shave with the grain. There's no way to map it because when it swirls, there's no way to change the razor angle that doesn't run something against the grain. So I just shave straight down on my neck. And this is actually where mild razors really tend to irritate me. For whatever reason, I cannot use a mild razor on my neck. It tugs and pulls and it feels awful. So, single pass, straight down, and then I come in and line up the beard a little bit. I'm not a guy that stresses out too much about having a razor straight beard line. I don't think anybody really notices that much. And to be honest, I think the more straight you make it, the less natural it looks. And I prefer a more natural looking beard. Alright, so that's the shave. I'm going to go ahead and take my shower and I'll come back for post-shave. Thanks. And I'm back for post-shave. So for post-shave, we're going to be using one of my Christmas presents. Malbolge from Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements. This is one of my favorite scents. It's got some burnt sugar, it's got some tobacco blossom, it's actually got some musk and patchouli and a handful of other different scent notes in there, but to me this one is very, very similar to the Fair Isle Harbor that I just used for the shave. It's not the same, but very close. Same tobacco blossom, you got the burnt sugar here, you got the caramel in the Fair Isle Harbor, so very, very complementary scents. So I had a few people ask about the cotton ball, which is how I apply my aftershave. So basically, the reason I started doing that is I struggled for years with folliculitis. Even before I started shaving my head. I just have really, really thick hair and really, really deep follicles. So it got much more noticeable when I started shaving my head. And the purpose of the cotton ball is it actually cleans out any soap residue or anything else that could be left down there in the pores that might cause additional irritation. Or for me, I was actually getting bacterial infections. So there was a long time. I went through about a year of experimenting. I'll probably do a video on that at some point, but I went through about a year of experimenting how to get that under control, what razors I could use, what blades I didn't impact anything, and what products were acceptable. So the cotton ball serves a purpose for me, and I've tried a couple times going back to just applying the oh, that smells really, really good. Just applying the aftershave with my hands, and I do start to get more bumps and irritation that pop up when I do that. So I just continue doing it with the cotton ball because that's what works for me. So, and as far as showering after the shave, I've tried both. I don't find it makes much difference to the shave itself as far as closeness. But similar to using the cotton ball to help make sure my pores are cleaned out, the shower after the shave helps make sure that I've got all that soap residue kind of gone, and because I'm shaving both my head and my face, it makes cleanup a lot easier. So I do it afterwards. I'm going to finish up with some Fair Isle Harbor Balm. They don't make a splash yet, so that's why I use the Malbolge with for the splash. Their balm is kind of like a thin lotion. It's not extremely thick, kind of medium, but it does rub in well. It doesn't leave a greasy feeling or oily feeling. I have noticed since I started using either a balm or a lotion after I shave, I also use lotion before I go to bed at night, and on days that I don't shave, I use it in the morning. And I have found that since doing that, my oily skin problem has gone away. I used to have what I thought was extremely oily skin, and I think what I had going on was I had dry skin and my body was trying to overcompensate by producing a whole bunch of oil. So for those of you guys who think you have oily skin, you might just need to start using a moisturizer regularly. So that's my shave for today. Good smooth head shave, good face shave. Nothing left over. The Future did a good job. I'm actually headed out soon to Razor Emporium to pick up a razor I had replated recently as one of my Christmas presents to me. So I will be featuring that in a future video. Like I said, hope you guys had a good Christmas, have a great New Year, and I'll see you next time.